The strange thing about anxiety is that it often becomes loudest at the exact moment the world becomes quiet. All day, you may have been moving from one task to another, answering messages, driving through traffic, washing dishes, sitting in meetings, caring for someone, smiling when you did not feel like smiling, telling people you were fine because explaining the truth felt too difficult. Then night comes. The lights are turned off. The phone is placed on the table. The house settles into silence. And suddenly, every thought you postponed returns at once. A conversation from 3 years ago. A bill that has not been paid. A pain in the body you are afraid to examine. A child who is not called. A mistake you cannot undo. A future you cannot control. The room is dark, but the mind is fully awake. You are listening to Still Mind Temple, a quiet place for the mind to rest. Perhaps you are lying in bed now, staring at a ceiling you can barely see. Perhaps rain is touching the window. Perhaps the person beside you is already asleep, breathing peacefully, while your own mind keeps moving from fear to fear. Or perhaps the other side of the bed is empty, and the silence feels larger than the room. You may have tried to command yourself to sleep. Stop thinking. Calm down. Let it go. But the mind rarely becomes quiet because it has been ordered to be quiet. A frightened child does not stop crying because someone says, "You should not be afraid." A tired heart does not rest because it has been criticized for being tired. This is one of the first things Buddhist wisdom asks us to see. Peace cannot be forced. The harder you try to crush a thought, the more attention you give it, the more urgently you demand sleep, the more awake you become. The more you fight anxiety, the more the body receives the message that there must be something dangerous nearby. So tonight, we will not fight the mind. We will sit beside it. We will listen to it without believing every word it says. We will allow it to become tired in its own time. There is an old story about a monk who approached his teacher late one evening. The monastery was quiet. A single lantern burned near the doorway. Beyond the walls, the mountain disappeared into darkness. The monk bowed and said, "Master, my mind will not rest." The teacher looked at him and replied, "Bring me your mind, and I will calm it for you." The monk stood silently. He searched for the mind that was troubling him. Was it in his head? In his chest? In the images of tomorrow? In the memory of yesterday? In the tension behind his eyes? After a long time he said, "I cannot find it." The teacher nodded. "Then I have already calmed it." The story does not mean that anxiety is imaginary. The tightness in the chest is real. The racing heartbeat is real. The sleeplessness is real. The tears that come when everyone else is asleep are real. But the story points toward something subtle. A thought feels solid when we are inside it. When you think something terrible will happen, the thought may feel like a window into the future. When you think, "I will never recover," the thought may feel like a final judgment. When you think, "I should have done more," the thought may feel like a sentence being handed down by a court. Yet when you turn toward the thought and ask, "Where is it? What is it made of?" you may notice that it is an event passing through awareness. It appears, it stays for a while, it changes, it disappears, and then another thought takes its place. In Buddhist teaching, the mind is often compared to the sky, while thoughts are compared to clouds. The clouds may be dark. They may gather quickly. They may cover every part of the sky you can see. But they are not the sky itself. The sky does not need to fight them. It allows them to arrive, change shape, and move on. Tonight, you do not have to empty your mind. You do not have to become perfectly calm. You only have to notice that a thought is a thought, not a command, not a prophecy, not the whole of who you are. There was a woman named Margaret who had spent most of her life taking care of other people. She raised 2 children, helped her husband through years of illness, and worked at the same office until retirement. She was the person everyone called when something went wrong. She knew how to fill out forms, arrange appointments, bring food, offer advice, and remain composed in hospital hallways. But after her husband died, the nights became difficult. During the day, she managed well. She went to the grocery store. She watered the plants. She spoke to her daughter on the phone. She even laughed sometimes, but at night, she would wake at 2 in the morning and reach toward the empty side of the bed. Then her mind would begin. What if I had noticed his symptoms earlier? What if the doctor missed something? What if I had insisted on another treatment? What if he was afraid and did not tell me? For months, Margaret believed that if she replayed the past enough times, she might discover the one moment where everything could have been changed. But she was not solving the past. She was punishing herself for not having possessed knowledge that no human being could have possessed at the time. This is one of the obstacles that keeps the mind awake, the illusion of control. The mind returns to the past because it believes understanding every detail will give it power. It rehearses the future because it believes imagining every danger will prevent surprise. But worry is not the same as preparation. Preparation takes a practical step. Worry walks in circles. Preparation says, tomorrow I will call the doctor. Worry says, what if the doctor tells me something terrible? Preparation says, I will review my finances this weekend. Worry says, what if I lose everything and end up alone? Preparation has an end. Worry keeps asking for one more answer. When Margaret finally spoke to a grief counselor, she said, I feel like I am betraying him when I sleep. The counselor asked, did your husband love you? Margaret began to cry. Yes. Would he want your love for him to become a life sentence? That question did not remove her grief. It did not make the empty bed less empty, but it opened a small space inside her suffering. She began to understand that resting was not forgetting, sleeping was not betrayal. Continuing to live did not mean the life they shared had meant less. A guide may point toward the door, but you must still take the step. Margaret had to take that step each night. She placed one hand over her heart and said, I loved him with the understanding I had. I did what I could with the strength I had. Tonight, I released the trial. Some nights she believed those words. Some nights she did not, but she kept practicing. Over time, something changed. The memories still came, but she no longer treated each memory as a courtroom. She began to remember the sound of his laugh, the way he always left the porch light on, the cold coffee he forgot on the kitchen counter. Her grief became less like an accusation and more like love with nowhere physical to go. Good people still suffer. This can be difficult to accept. We may secretly believe that kindness should protect us. If we are patient, life should be patient with us. If we care for others, someone should care for us when our own strength disappears. If we meditate, perhaps uncertainty should stop entering our lives. But Buddhist practice is not a bargain with life. Kindness does not prevent loss. Meditation does not remove uncertainty. A sincere heart can still be betrayed. A careful person can still become ill. A loving parent can still receive painful news. A mindful person can still make a mistake. Wisdom does not guarantee that the storm will pass around your house. It teaches you how to remain present when the rain reaches your door. Another obstacle that feeds racing thoughts is self-judgment. A man named Daniel knew this well. He worked for many years as a manager in a warehouse. People trusted him. He arrived early, stayed late, and rarely asked for help. When the company reduced its staff, Daniel lost the job he thought he would keep until retirement. The first few weeks, he told everyone he was enjoying the break. But each morning, he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open and felt something inside him shrinking. He sent applications and received silence. He interviewed and heard, "We have decided to move forward with another candidate." At night, he imagined his children looking at him with disappointment, though they had never said anything cruel. He began to believe that losing his job meant he had lost his worth. One evening, his son came by and found him sitting in the dark. "Dad," his son said, "why didn't you call me?" Daniel looked away. "I didn't want you to see me like this." "Like what?" "Useless." His son pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "When I was 10, you drove across town at midnight because I was scared at a sleepover. When Mom was sick, you learned how to cook everything she could eat. When I made the worst mistake of my life, you were the first person who answered the phone. You are not your job. Some of the most important wealth in life will never appear in a bank account. A trustworthy heart is one of them." Daniel had spent decades measuring himself by usefulness. As long as he was earning, fixing, leading, and providing, he knew who he was. But when those roles fell away, he met the fear underneath them. Who am I when I am not needed? Who am I when I cannot impress anyone? Who am I when life does not confirm the story I tell about myself? These questions may appear at night because the night removes the distractions that protect us from them. The mind races not only because it is afraid of tomorrow. It races because it is afraid of emptiness. It wants a role, a label, a plan, an answer. Yet there are seasons when no answer comes quickly. During those seasons, you may begin to notice a quiet sign of inner change. You stop demanding that every uncertain moment explain itself. At first, this change can feel like failure. You sit at the edge of the bed, and the old mind says, you need to solve your entire life before morning. But another voice, softer and steadier, says, tonight, I only need to rest. Tomorrow, I can take one honest step. This is not avoidance. It is wisdom about timing. The mind often tries to solve emotional pain at the hour when the body has the least strength. At midnight, loneliness becomes permanent. At 2 a.m, one mistake becomes the story of your entire life. At 4, the future appears already ruined. Morning does not magically fix everything, but it often changes the scale of the problem. What felt endless in darkness may become one phone call, one appointment, one conversation, one page, one necessary task. There is an old Zen story about a student who asked his teacher, "How do I enter the path?" The teacher replied, "Do you hear the stream?" The student became still. At first, he heard nothing but his own thoughts. Then, beneath them, he noticed water moving over stone. "Yes," he said, "I hear it." "Enter from there," the teacher answered. The stream had been present the whole time. The student's mind had simply been too loud to notice it. This is the practice tonight. Not creating peace from nothing. Not forcing silence. Not defeating the mind, only noticing what is already here beneath the noise. Perhaps the sound of air moving through the room. The low hum of a fan. The distant passing of a car on a highway. The weight of the blanket. The rise and fall of the breath. Your body is here, even when your thoughts are living in tomorrow. Your breath is here, even when your mind is arguing with yesterday. Take one slow breath now. Not a perfect breath. Not a spiritual breath. Just one breath you are willing to feel. Let the air enter. Let the air leave. For this moment, nothing else is required. You may notice another sign of change when you begin reacting less quickly to your own thoughts. A frightening image appears, and instead of following it to the end, you say, "Fear is here." A memory appears, and instead of entering the old argument, you say, "Remembering is here." A wave of sadness appears, and instead of declaring that your life is hopeless, you say, "Sadness is here." This small change in language can create space. Not "I am broken." Pain is here. Not "I am a failure." Shame is here. Not "I will always be alone." Loneliness is here tonight. The word "here" reminds you that the experience is present. The word "tonight" reminds you that it may not be permanent. A feeling can be honored without being turned into an identity. A thought can be heard without being obeyed. This is not denial. It is a more accurate way of seeing. A third obstacle that keeps the mind racing is resentment. Resentment often enters the bedroom long after the person who caused it has gone to sleep peacefully somewhere else. You replay what they said. You imagine what you should have said. You construct a conversation where they finally understand your pain. You picture them apologizing. You picture yourself refusing the apology. You picture them suffering enough to realize what they did. Meanwhile, your body lies awake, holding the weight of the scene. There was a nurse named Elena who had not spoken to her sister for 6 years. Their conflict began after their mother became ill. Elena believed she had carried most of the responsibility. She arranged appointments, managed medication, and spent long evenings in a hospital hallway while her sister lived several states away. After their mother died, one argument broke open everything they had not said. "You were never here," Elena told her. "You never let me help," her sister replied. The words became sharper. Old childhood wounds entered the room. Doors were closed. Messages went unanswered. Years passed. Elena told herself she had moved on, but at night she still held imaginary arguments. She would stare into the darkness, remembering exactly what her sister had said, exactly where she had been standing, exactly how her voice sounded. The anger made Elena feel strong for a few minutes. Then it left her exhausted. One day, after a long shift, she sat alone in the hospital cafeteria. At another table, she saw two elderly sisters sharing a bowl of soup. One of them lifted the spoon to the other's mouth because her hands were shaking. Elena suddenly thought of the two little girls she and her sister had once been, sharing a bedroom, whispering after the lights were turned off, holding hands at their father's funeral. The memory did not erase the hurt, but it made the hurt larger than one argument. Elena went home and wrote a message. I am not ready to pretend nothing happened, but I do not want silence to be the last chapter of our relationship. I am willing to talk. That message was a sign of inner change. Not because she abandoned her boundary, not because she accepted every accusation, not because forgiveness required returning to the same pattern. She changed because she no longer wanted anger to make every decision. Forgiving wisely does not mean saying the harm was acceptable. It does not mean trusting someone who remains dangerous. It does not mean returning to abuse. Sometimes forgiveness means releasing the hope that the past could have happened differently. Sometimes it means saying, I will not carry this person in my mind every night. Sometimes it means creating distance without hatred. Sometimes it means having one honest conversation. Sometimes it means never speaking again, while still refusing to let bitterness become your identity. Compassion is not a ritual for receiving rewards. It is a way of living, and compassion must include the person lying awake inside your own body. You may be very gentle with everyone else and cruel to yourself. You may tell a friend, you did the best you could, then tell yourself, you should have known better. You may forgive another person's fear, exhaustion, and confusion, while demanding perfection from your own past. Tonight, consider offering yourself the same mercy you would offer someone you love. There is a story of a farmer who came to a monk carrying a heavy sack over his shoulder. The farmer complained that life was unfair. His children did not listen. His crops were failing. His neighbor had insulted him. His body hurt. His wife did not understand him. The government was foolish. The weather was wrong. The monk listened patiently. Then he asked, Why are you still carrying the sack? The farmer looked confused. It contains stones from my field, he said. Do you need them here? No. Then put it down. The farmer lowered the sack and sighed with relief. The monk said, You carry many things because you forget to ask whether they are needed in this moment. Anxiety often carries tomorrow's stones into tonight. Resentment carries yesterday's stones into tonight. Guilt carries stones from a road that no longer exists. The body feels all of them. The shoulders remain lifted. The jaw stays tight. The stomach waits for danger. The heart continues preparing for an emergency that is not happening in the room. Letting go does not mean the stones were never real. It means you do not have to sleep with the sack on your chest. Another sign of inner change appears when you begin setting calm boundaries. Perhaps someone often calls late at night with chaos you are expected to solve. Perhaps a family member uses guilt to control your choices. Perhaps your work follows you into bed through emails, notifications, and unfinished tasks. Perhaps you keep consuming news until your nervous system feels responsible for every tragedy in the world. A boundary may be as simple as turning off the phone. It may be saying, I cannot discuss this tonight. It may be leaving a conversation when voices become cruel. It may be asking for help. It may be admitting, I am not able to carry this alone. A boundary is not always a wall. Sometimes it is a gate that opens with care and closes with wisdom. The anxious mind may call boundaries selfish because it has learned that love means endless availability. But exhaustion is not proof of goodness. Destroying your own peace does not heal another person. A child waiting for your attention does not need a perfect parent. A partner who feels unheard does not need you to solve every problem. A loyal friend does not need you to answer every message immediately. They need presence, and presence requires a mind that has somewhere to rest. You may notice another sign of change when you need less approval. The old mind checks constantly. Did they like me? Did I say the wrong thing? Why did they not respond? Are they disappointed? What does their silence mean? The mind can build an entire tragedy around an unread message. But silence has many meanings. Someone may be busy. Someone may be tired. Someone may not know what to say. Someone may be struggling with a pain they have not shared. And yes, sometimes silence may mean rejection. Even then, your life does not end at the edge of another person's opinion. A woman named Claire learned this after a close friend slowly stopped returning her calls. Claire reviewed every conversation, looking for the moment she had failed. She wrote messages and deleted them. She checked social media and compared herself to the friend's new companions. One night, after staring at her phone for nearly an hour, she asked herself a simple question. How long will I keep abandoning myself while waiting for someone else to choose me? The question hurt, but it also awakened her. The next morning, Claire went for a walk without taking her phone. She sat on a park bench and watched an old man scatter seeds for birds. She noticed morning light on wet grass. She bought coffee and drank it before it turned cold. Nothing dramatic happened. Her friend did not call. The relationship was not repaired. But Claire returned to her own life. This is how peace often begins. Not with a grand revelation, with one ordinary moment in which you stop leaving yourself. You drink the tea while it is warm. You eat dinner without checking for a message. You step outside and feel the air. You go to sleep without asking the whole world to confirm your worth. In Buddhist teaching, attachment is not simply loving someone or caring about an outcome. Attachment is the mind's insistence that peace can only exist if a particular person stays, a particular plan succeeds, a particular future arrives. Love says, you matter to me. Attachment says, without you, I cannot be whole. Hope says, I would welcome this outcome. Attachment says, this outcome must happen or life has failed. The difference may seem small, but the body knows it. Love has open hands. Attachment clenches. Tonight, notice what your mind is clenching around. A person? An answer? An apology? A guarantee? You do not have to force your hand open. Simply notice the effort of holding. Sometimes awareness loosens what force cannot. A new opportunity does not guarantee peace. More money does not guarantee peace. A spiritual teacher does not guarantee transformation. There are people with full bank accounts who cannot sleep. There are people praised by thousands who feel abandoned when the room is empty. There are people who travel to temples, collect teachings, and repeat beautiful words while continuing to speak harshly to their families. Peace must become a practice. Honesty when a lie would be easier. Gratitude when comparison appears. Humility when pride wants to win. Boundaries when fear wants to please everyone. Restraint when anger wants to send the message immediately. Forgiveness when resentment wants to rehearse the wound. Responsibility when shame wants to hide. Compassion when judgment wants to divide the world into good people and bad people. This is also how karma may be understood. Not as punishment from the universe. Not as a simple system where every good action is immediately rewarded. Karma is the way intention, repetition, words, habits, and actions shape the mind and influence future conditions. Each time you rehearse resentment, resentment becomes easier to enter. Each time you pause before speaking, patience becomes more available. Each time you lie to avoid discomfort, fear grows stronger. Each time you tell the truth with care, integrity becomes part of your character. Each time you obey an anxious thought, the mind learns that anxiety is in charge. Each time you notice the thought and choose wisely, awareness becomes stronger. This does not mean you control everything that happens. You do not, but you do influence the direction in which your mind learns to travel. Imagine a path through tall grass. The first time you walk it, the way is difficult. After walking it every day, the path becomes clear. The same is true of the mind. Tonight's practice is not about becoming a different person before morning. It is about taking one step on a different path. When fear says, solve everything, you answer, one thing at a time. When guilt says, punish yourself, you answer, learn and repair. When resentment says, keep the wound open, you answer, protect yourself without living in hatred. When the mind says, stay awake so you can prevent tomorrow, you answer, rest is part of how I meet tomorrow. Perhaps there is one practical step you need to take. Write down the fear so the mind does not have to hold it all night. Make a note to call the doctor. Set a reminder to review the bill. Decide to apologize. Plan to ask for professional help. Choose a respectful boundary. Then allow the task to remain where you placed it. You do not have to perform tomorrow's action in tonight's imagination. Another sign of inner change appears when you accept uncertainty without treating it as danger. This is difficult because the mind prefers a painful answer to an unanswered question. It will often invent the worst conclusion simply to escape not knowing. The test result must be bad. The relationship must be ending. The company must be planning to dismiss me. My child must be in trouble. The future must be closing. But I do not know is sometimes the most honest sentence available. There is humility in that sentence. There is also freedom. You do not know everything that will go wrong. You also do not know all the help that may arrive. You do not know which conversation may open a door. You do not know which strength will appear when it is needed. You do not know which burden will become lighter with support. Uncertainty contains fear, but it also contains possibility. A teacher once asked his students to hold a cup in front of them. "How heavy is the cup?" he asked. The students gave different answers. The teacher said, "The weight is not the main problem. The problem is how long I hold it. For 1 minute, it is easy. For 1 hour, my arm begins to ache. For 1 day, I may not be able to move." Many thoughts are like this. A concern held briefly can guide action. The same concern held all night becomes suffering. The question is not always, how do I remove this thought? Sometimes the better question is, can I set it down until morning? You are allowed to set it down. Not forever. Not irresponsibly. Just for now. Your later life may not look like the dream you once imagined. It may not include enormous success, perfect health, or a family without conflict. Peaceful later years may be quieter than that. Fewer regrets. Honest relationships. Manageable needs. A stable home. Enough health to enjoy the morning. Someone to call. The ability to sleep. A mind that no longer fights every memory. A heart that can look back without needing the past to change. There is a man named Robert who spent most of his life chasing security. He worked overtime, saved carefully, and rarely took a vacation. He told himself he would rest after the mortgage was paid, after the children finished school, after the retirement account reached the right number. At 68, he finally retired, but rest did not come. His body had stopped working, but his mind had not. He still woke before dawn with a feeling that he was late. He checked his investments several times a day. He worried that every expense would lead to ruin. One morning, his granddaughter visited and asked him to sit on the porch. "I have things to do," he said. "You always have things to do," she answered. She was 7 years old. Robert sat down. They watched a spider build a web between the porch railings. They listened to a truck in the distance. His granddaughter leaned against his arm and said nothing. For 10 minutes, Robert did not plan. He did not calculate. He did not prepare. He simply sat with someone who loved him. Later, he would say that those 10 minutes showed him how poor he had been while spending his life trying to feel rich. He had accumulated money but postponed presents. He had protected the future while missing the afternoon. The lesson is not that money is unimportant. Practical stability matters. Medical care matters. Housing matters. Food matters. Responsible planning matters. But money can support peace. It cannot practice peace for you. A quiet home cannot quiet a mind that has never learned to stop fighting itself. You may notice another sign of change when gratitude begins appearing in ordinary moments. Not forced gratitude. Not pretending pain does not exist. A quieter recognition. The blanket is warm. The water is clean. Someone remembered your birthday. The dog waited by the door. The morning arrived. The medicine is helping. The chair holds your tired body. The breath came again. Gratitude does not deny suffering. It prevents suffering from becoming the only thing you can see. Even in grief, there may be a cup of tea. Even in loneliness, there may be morning sunlight entering an ordinary room. Even in fear, there may be one trustworthy person. Even in uncertainty, there may be one necessary step. And sometimes there may only be the breath. That is enough for this moment. Take 3 conscious breaths now. With the first breath, notice the body. With the second, notice the mind. With the third, allow both to be exactly as they are. You do not need to make the body softer. You do not need to make the mind empty. Awareness does not demand improvement before it offers presence. This may be the deepest sign of inner change. You stop waiting to become worthy of peace. You stop saying, "I will rest when I fix myself." You stop postponing kindness toward yourself until you have made no mistakes. You begin to see that awareness can hold the imperfect life, the unfinished conversation, the uncertain future, the tired face, the lonely evening, the heart that is still learning. A therapist may help you understand a pattern. A doctor may help you care for the body. A friend may sit with you through a difficult night. A teacher may offer a story. A child may remind you to come outside. A stranger may show unexpected kindness. Each may open a door. But you must still practice. You must still pause before sending the angry message. You must still make the delayed call. You must still ask for help. You must still leave the harmful situation. You must still sit quietly for 10 minutes. You must still forgive wisely. You must still complete one small responsibility. You must still turn off the noise. Spiritual practice does not replace therapy, medical care, healthy boundaries, practical action, or personal responsibility. It helps you meet those things with awareness. It reminds you that asking for help is not failure. Taking medication when prescribed is not spiritual weakness. Leaving abuse is not a lack of compassion. Resting is not laziness. Crying is not losing the path. Kind people can suffer. Mindful people can make mistakes. Strong people can need support. The mind may still race again tomorrow night. This is not proof that you have failed. The ocean continues to make waves. The sky continues to receive clouds. Practice is not the removal of every wave. It is learning not to drown in each one. Perhaps sleep will come soon. Perhaps it will take time. Do not turn sleep into another test. Let rest be enough, even before sleep arrives. Feel the surface beneath you. You are being held by something. A bed, a couch, a chair, the floor. Let your weight be given to it. You do not have to hold yourself up right now. Let the muscles around the eyes loosen. Let the tongue rest. Let the shoulders drop one small distance. Let the hands remain open. Imagine that the thoughts are cars passing on a highway at night. You hear them approach. You hear them pass. You do not have to run into the road. You do not have to know where each car is going. You remain where you are, watching the lights grow distant. A thought about the past. Passing. A thought about tomorrow. Passing. A thought about whether this is working. Passing. A thought about sleep. Passing. The watcher remains still. There is nothing to chase. Nothing to solve in this breath. Nothing to prove in this room. Outside, the night continues without your management. Trees stand in darkness. Roads stretch between quiet houses. A porch lamp remains on for someone who has not yet returned. In a hospital hallway, someone waits for news. In an empty office, a cleaner turns off the final light. In a small apartment, a parent checks the phone one last time. Across the world, countless people are lying awake with thoughts they believe no one else understands. You are not alone in the human night. Others are carrying uncertainty. Others are grieving. Others are afraid. Others are learning to begin again. May this awareness make your heart less isolated. Not because everyone's pain is the same, but because suffering connects us. Compassion begins when we stop asking, "Why am I the only one?" and begin to recognize this is part of being human. Then we can care for our pain without worshiping it. We can honor our story without living inside it forever. We can meet the anxious mind as we would meet a frightened animal. Slowly, gently, without sudden movements, without punishment. You would not shout at a trembling dog to become calm. You would sit nearby. You would soften your voice. You would wait until it understood that the room was safe. Treat your own mind this way tonight. It has been trying to protect you. It has simply forgotten when to stop. You can thank it. You have worked hard. You have shown me every danger you can imagine. You may rest now. The mind may not believe you immediately. Say it again with patience. You may rest now. Peace does not begin when life becomes perfect. Peace begins when we learn to meet life with awareness. The unanswered message can remain unanswered until morning. The past can remain unchanged. The future can remain unseen. The body can be tired. The heart can be tender. And still in this moment, awareness is here. This is enough to begin. The night does not need you to become enlightened. It only asks you to stop carrying what cannot be resolved in darkness. Let the old conversation fade. Let the imagined disaster move farther away. Let the face in your memory soften. Let yourself be a human being who did not know everything, could not control everything, and was never meant to carry everything alone. The person who changes their life is not the person who finds a miracle. It is the person who wakes up and no longer lives in the old way. Tomorrow, perhaps you will wake and take one honest step. You may apologize. You may set a boundary. You may call someone you miss. You may make an appointment. You may ask for help. You may choose not to answer cruelty with cruelty. You may sit with your coffee before the day becomes loud. You may do one kind act privately, without needing anyone to know. You may finish one small responsibility that fear has made larger than it is. This is how a life changes. Not all at once. Not through force. Through repeated moments of awareness. For now, the evening light is gone. The room is quiet. The tea is cooled. Somewhere in the distance, a car passes and disappears. Let your breathing become natural. Let the next breath come without invitation. Let it leave without being held. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be removed. If sleep comes, welcome it. If wakefulness remains, meet it gently. You are not failing. You are practicing. Peace is practiced in ordinary moments. Awareness changes the direction of a life. And letting go is not giving up. It is releasing what the heart can no longer carry. If this reflection brought you a moment of peace, please subscribe to Still Mind Temple and share it with someone who may need a quiet place to rest today.